Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Excuse me, Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a phenomenon that's sweeping the Western world simultaneously, or wherever the globalists are in full control, the once democratic white Western world, where all of the military, all across the Western world, are struggling to recruit soldiers and particularly officers into their ranks. So now this is this has been coming on for a bit, I guess. But there were complaints 10 years ago that they wanted to hire, I don't know, recruit 50,000 people into the military, but they got 49,000. So they were falling short sort of a while ago, but not by large numbers, not by enough to get there. Now the differences are quite substantial. You're looking at 20%, 25%, 30% shortfall in recruitment numbers for the military. Now, this isn't just the Army or the Navy; it's across the board. So now I'll come back to why that is in a minute, but or some of the reasons. But what are the solutions? Are the solutions to deal with the causes of this difficulty in recruiting? Well, no, let's not deal with the causes. Fuck the causes. What we'll do is we'll band-aid over, we'll paper over the cracks. That's how we'll solve it. And in Australia, as an example, let's hire these. Let's go and hire these illiterate Pacific Islander peasants, and we'll go and recruit them into the army. We'll hire them as mercenaries, but they're not citizens. Who gives a shit? We just want to make up the numbers. They're upright and warm. Who cares about the quality? Who cares about its citizenship? Who cares about the commitment? They're living hand-to-mouth peasants in their little rural shantytown villages. We'll give them a place to live. We'll give them money. We'll give it'll be fine. It'll all work out. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? So it's insane. You look at it and shake your head in disbelief. What fucking morons thought this up? But and I'll come back again, as I mentioned a moment ago, come back to why this is why there is a struggle to fill the ranks and recruit enough people to fill the ranks of the military, particularly in Australia, at least in the Asia Pac region. There's a rather bellicose China at the moment, talking tough about you better do what we want or else. And they've got quite a large army. I mean, they've got a population of 1.4 billion people, so that they should be able to put quite a few boots on the ground if they want to. So how do you oppose that? And you need people in the military. Now, the nature of the military is changing, particularly with drones controlled at a long distance. You don't need a big tough sort of dude to pull the joystick in the remote control room when you've got mass armies of drones, remote controlled drones, for example. So there's a difference between the evolution of war and the sort of people you need, and then the people who are going to, who would be the boots on the ground, who can suffer privations and so on. So anyway, there's let's just have a look at the overall situation with mercenaries. Now, when the Roman Empire started to switch from citizen soldiers into mercenaries, and at times the mercenaries would be people who would be, small numbers of them sprinkled out throughout the Roman citizen armies or groups of soldiers. So you might have 5% of your soldiers on the frontier, wherever, and they'd be supposedly loyal locals. These were usually the offspring of the chieftains or the leading citizens in the non-Roman area. They would have to give up their children as hostages to be educated in Rome, and then they would have to serve in the military. They in return would get citizenship, and so there are a few issues there now. But the numbers were quite small. But over time, the numbers grew to a point where entire military units, fortress towns, entire garrison towns were made up of mercenaries, and over time that occurred. Now that say happened after maybe 180 AD, somewhere around there. I haven't got an exact date, but around that time was when the number of mercenaries started to equal or outnumber in certain sections the citizen soldier. Now, why did they struggle to hire citizen soldiers when the population of Rome was increasing? Well, there are a few things. The Roman government had been unreliable in rewarding soldiers, so they would say, well, after, for example, 10 years service, we'll give you a plot of land, which is a farm, and that's a gift to you if you like a pension. So someone joined the armed service at 18, they would stay 10 years or 16 years, depending on what the deal was, and they would still be young enough and vigorous enough and fit enough to run a farm. They'd be given a free plot of land, a free farm, effectively, with a couple of cows and a few chickens, and off they'd go, and that would be the life they would live. Bear in mind, it's an agricultural society. Now, the Roman government was a bit unreliable in that. They would change the rules, and they would go, oh, well, I know we said we'd give you 20 acres, but we've decided to give you 10 acres, and that's on a rocky outcrop. So, they can't make. So, somebody couldn't make a living as a farmer on that type of arrangement. And they would then change. So, well, you got to do 10 years, then it's 16 years, then you got to do 24 years of service. So they were constantly changing the rules, or you have to pay for your own equipment and so on. So the rules were always changing. And so Roman citizens were thinking, why would I pick the military to I can do better just working on a farm for somebody. I can do better just with a stall in the street in Rome. I can do better flipping burgers and so on. So the military was a high risk. You might get killed, and discipline was quite harsh, and the contract you would sign up for, the government could renege and say, we can't afford that now, or they would lose a battle in a certain area. Now, similarly, when the Roman Empire sort of stopped expanding and reached its limits, the amount of new territory that it would conquer also declined and pretty much leveled off. So a lot of the allocations of farms came on the new lands they would conquer. And so in the end, the ability of the Roman state, if you will, to give gifts of particularly farming land and so on to the soldiers. Now, they would sometimes be given cash payments, but in reality, the state lost its ability to reward and compensate and pension, if you like, soldiers. So Roman citizens didn't see a whole lot of mileage in signing up for the military. It wasn't an automatic, unless you were an officer, and that was mainly available only to the aristocrats. It wasn't a pathway to a better career or better opportunities generally. So the Roman state then switched around to say, well, we'll give citizenship to people who will sign up to serve in the Roman army, and this was something that they used. But again, they reneged on there. They would sign people up under the such and such conditions, and then not on, and then they would renege on those. So there was, again, even the conquered peoples, the Germans or the Gauls or the whatever it was, the North African Arabs and Berbers and so on. They would think there was there's no mileage in this, and now everybody wanted to become a Roman citizen because they wanted access to the easy reaching of Rome, the richest city in the world. Everybody wanted a piece of the action, but the reality was quite sort of different. And the Romans then, in order to get an army, just to have people serving in the garrison of the garrison towns, would offer easier and easier terms, but which they were more inclined to renege on. And these people that they were signing up, these mercenaries in effect, that were on a so-called sort of track to maybe ultimate ultimately getting citizenship. They were willing to, they wanted the citizenship and get to Rome, and all that sort of. They wanted the benefits, but why should they risk their lives? Now, when the larger sort of people displacement, the movements of people occurred from say 250 AD through to 450 AD, where there's a lot of people moving, large, the Huns and the Goths and all that sort of stuff moving around. They the people in the garrison towns were looking at, well, why should we, the mercenaries, why should we risk our ass for something the Romans may renege on anyway? So why should we put up a tough fight when these other people come along? They're really just like us in a lot of ways. They just want to get they just want to parasite off the richest city in the world. So there was if you look at the battles that the Romans fought through this time, and then you look at the proportion of Roman citizens in the army, not just the senior officers, by the way, but the proportion of the Roman citizens, and you would see that the Roman military victories were in battles where the Roman citizens were the majority. And if you have a look at where the Roman citizens are in the minority, the mercenaries, the Romans are losing most battles, close to nearly all the battles. So it shows that the mercenaries thought, well, why the fuck should we risk ourselves? So that's something there. I think it's an indication, a very clear indication of decline. Now, again, the Romans citizens were of the view that it was, why should we risk ourselves for the state when the state isn't really looking after us? The reliable allocation of farmlands and honouring of the contract agreements that they signed into. And we're seeing the same sort of thing in the West. The social contract is unwinding at a rapid rate, and our politicians no longer represent us. They represent the globalists. We no longer have representative democracy. The rule of law is arbitrary and politicized, and the list goes on of things. So, and really, the hatred that is displayed by the globalist controlled elite towards white people, particularly white, middle, and working class. People say, well, why should I risk myself for the country? Why should I risk myself for my society when my society and my politicians, they all hate me just because I'm a straight white male? So why the fuck should I put my ass on the line? So that's why there's a struggle to hire, straight white males, formerly the backbone of any Western army. Now you can still get some, but nothing like it was. I went to a military convention a while ago, and the overall majority. I remember there are a lot of pencil pushers. These aren't the frontline troops necessarily, but the overall majority of people there were women. And so there's more women certainly in that military convention, and they're doing dumb affirmative action things like appointing female generals and admirals and Air Force commodores and this sort of thing, just because of affirmative action. Now, if I was serious about defending, in the military, this is about defending my country, that would put me off. All these affirmative action, female hires and this sort of thing. It's pathetic. And a lot of them are like 5 foot tall as well. So, they're really rubbing it in. We're not talking about a super fit, 5 foot 10 inch tall chick who's really sort of made the grade and really we're talking about this very overweight 5 foot tall, and she's like a general. Excuse me. And then these masses of very overweight women running around, very unfit. And half of them have got an IQ of 80, are running around there in the military. How the fuck did they get into the military? And again, they're part of the bureaucracy, not the frontline troops. But even so, and they're swanning around in their uniforms like they really earned it. And they, so you go to that military convention, it's pretty scary. You think, what are these people even doing there? And so this is a huge disincentive for straight white males who are capable, who are going to pass the fitness test, pass the exams, meet the standard, exceed the standard. Well, they go, why the fuck should I be part of this bullshit? So that's And that's an obvious outcome, an inevitable outcome from hating on white people with such vitriol. So, but instead of solving that or dealing with that, because that's part of the globalist project to hate on white people and destroy white society, instead of dealing with that and saying, well, that's one of the collateral damage side effects is that we can't get enough soldiers to sign up. Well, that's not a problem. We'll just hire black lesbians. Well, it's not enough of them either. Well, that's not a problem. We'll just hire mercenaries. We'll just hire those illiterate peasants from the the islanders from the little shanty town village. Or we'll just hire them. That'll do. And we'll just pay them as mercenaries. Now, whoever would think that was that was a solution to anything has got to be fucking insane. But that's where we're going here in the West, not just in Australia, but also in Britain, Germany, and elsewhere. Wherever the hatred against the culture and the white people is the greatest, that's where they also have the biggest problem in hiring and filling the ranks of the military. And therefore, they are now all at the same time, simultaneously moving as one, are looking to hire black, brown, peasant mercenaries. I mean, fuck. What the fuck could go wrong there? You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.